Have you ever imagined what the most beautiful and powerful American wagons of the 1970s were like? Today, I bring you a selection of true jewels on wheels that defined a generation. Wagons with imposing presence, wood grain details, V8 engines, muscular designs, and that unmistakable style that only classic American cars could offer. But before we begin, I invite you to hit the like button if you ever dreamed of driving a wagon like these. And if you're new here, subscribe right now, because every week we celebrate the beauty and nostalgia of the cars that made history. Get ready for a dose of nostalgia, elegance, and classic power. Let's begin. 1972, Mercury Marquis Colony Park. When we talk about elegance on wheels in the 1970s, it's impossible not to think of the Mercury Marquis. It wasn't just a station wagon. It was a declaration of American sophistication, a road jewel that proved luxury and utility could coexist in perfect harmony. This wagon was for those who wanted more than space. It was for those who wanted to travel with class, for those who knew that arriving at your destination could also be an experience in refinement. Visually, the Colony Park commanded respect. Its long, robust body seemed to float over the asphalt, crowned by its unmistakable detail, the wood grain side panels. But it wasn't just decoration. That finish imitated real wood so faithfully that it became a symbol of status. While other wagons tried to remain discreet, this Mercury wanted to be admired, and it succeeded. Its front end, with a divided grille and well-integrated square headlights, carried a sober yet powerful expression. It was like seeing an executive in a tailored suit. Everything in place, no exaggerations, but with a silent strength that said it all. Inside, the experience was even more fascinating. The cabin of the Colony Park was spacious, quiet, almost like the private living room of an elegant home. Seats upholstered in padded vinyl, wood-look trim on the dashboard, soft to the touch controls, and acoustic insulation that kept every conversation protected from outside noise. Even while driving, it was possible to speak without raising your voice, as if the world stayed outside and you were in your own rolling sanctuary. Under the hood, Mercury offered several engine options, but one of the most desired was the 429 cubic inch V8. That beast could produce over 200 horsepower, more than enough to move its massive body with surprising agility. The most interesting part was that despite its size, the Colony Park drove with ease thanks to its luxury suspension and an automatic transmission that seemed to anticipate your intentions. It wasn't a car built to race. It was built to enjoy the journey, knowing it lacked nothing. A little-known but charming detail was that this model included a sequential interior lighting system, which illuminated different sections of the cabin progressively as the doors opened, an almost theatrical touch that made stepping into the Mercury feel like stepping onto a stage. Those little luxuries, useless yet unforgettable, are what set it apart from any other wagon of its time. 1977 Oldsmobile Custom Cruiser. There are automobiles that don't need to exaggerate to impress, and this one is living proof that sophistication can also come wrapped in a clean, serene, and majestic design. This wagon was one of the largest ever produced by General Motors, but what's curious is that its size never robbed it of elegance. On the contrary, it amplified it. It was like watching a ballerina who, despite her height, moved with innate grace. That was the Oldsmobile Custom Cruiser, gigantic yet charming. Launched at the end of the decade, the Custom Cruiser arrived with a fresh air that broke away from the overly rounded shapes of the early 1970s. Its lines were straight, well-defined, as if the designers wanted to sculpt the body rather than simply draw it. The result was a wagon with striking proportions, yet with a visual harmony that still surprises even today. Its front end, with Oldsmobile's traditional split grille and rectangular headlights framed in chrome, carried an air of authority that let you know this wasn't just another car. But what truly made the Custom Cruiser an icon was its level of refinement. Inside, it offered a space so generous that many described it as a rolling living room. The seats, soft and cushioned, seemed to invite you to just stay there, enjoying the silence and the almost imperceptible sway of its suspension. The standard engine was a powerful 403 cubic inch V8, though it could also be equipped with the legendary 455. Driving was so smooth that despite its length, over 18.5 feet, many drivers were surprised at how easy it was to maneuver. And with the addition of the TH400 automatic transmission, the result was a driving experience that was comfortable, solid, and almost floating. But there's one detail about this wagon that few remember, and it speaks volumes about Oldsmobile's obsession with comfort: the rear ventilation system with outlets integrated into the roof pillars. This allowed even the passengers in the third row, way in the back of the Custom Cruiser's vast interior, to receive fresh air directly. Now tell me, would you have a Custom Cruiser like this in your garage? Would you restore it, use it for long trips, or simply showcase it as a jewel? Let me know in the comments. 1971 Chevrolet Kingswood Estate. The moment you saw it parked in front of a house or loaded up with luggage for a family vacation, you instantly knew you were looking at an emblem of American automotive design. This wagon wasn't just long, it was imposing. It wasn't just stylish, it was almost cinematic. It represented that moment in history when size and presence were a legitimate way to express power, elegance, and security. At over 18.7 feet in length, the Kingswood Estate was one of the largest wagons Chevrolet ever produced. But its size didn't rob it of grace. In fact, thanks to its well-balanced proportions and the legendary wood-grain side panels, this wagon managed something unique. It was both a family vehicle and a piece of design worthy of admiration. The Kingswood line was part of the Caprice and Impala family, and you could see that in every inch of its interior. The cabin was a festival of space, comfort, and 1970s flair. Wraparound seats upholstered in soft, durable materials, a dashboard that combined large instruments with a warm color palette, all designed to make every trip, long or short, feel like an experience. The rear-facing third-row seat wasn't just practical, it became a favorite spot for kids of the era. Many will remember watching the world in reverse from back there as the road slowly disappeared into the distance. Under the hood, the Kingswood Estate could be equipped with big block V8 engines. The most notable was the 400 cubic inch, though the legendary 454 was also available, a true beast of torque and power. Despite its weight and size, this wagon moved with surprising ease, especially on the open road. And thanks to its long chassis and refined suspension, the ride was as smooth as butter on toast. Firm, but free of harshness, with that floating sensation so typical of Chevrolet's finest from the era. Here's a fun fact that few people know. The tailgate system featured an electric sliding window function, allowing the rear glass to be lowered from the dashboard, making loading easier or simply letting fresh air in without opening the entire gate. It was a small luxury that perfectly reflected Chevrolet's focus on comfort and user experience with this model. 1970 Ford LTD Country Squire. If there was ever a car that defined the concept of the classic American wagon, it was, without a doubt, the LTD Country Squire. This model wasn't just a means of family transportation. It was a cultural emblem. It represented the heart of American suburbia, summer road trips, Sunday picnics in the park, and above all, the desire to combine functionality with status. Because yes, having a Country Squire in the garage was a way of saying, "My family travels in style." Visually, it was unmistakable. Its long, robust body was adorned with a generous amount of chrome details that shimmered in the sun as if the car itself was celebrating its presence. But what truly elevated it to iconic status was its wood-grain side paneling, a finish that evoked tradition, classic luxury, and good taste. It wasn't real wood, of course, but nobody questioned it. On the contrary, it was a symbol everyone recognized and respected, a detail that turned every daily trip into something special. The front end was massive, with a wide grille flanked by dual rectangular headlights and chrome moldings framing every line. Seeing it coming down the street gave the impression of a road-going ship, silent, majestic, and with a presence that didn't ask permission to impress. Inside, comfort was the top priority. Wide seats, a dashboard with soft finishes, metallic accents, and soundproofing that made you forget you were even driving on asphalt. The LTD Country Squire was like a living room on wheels, where every family member had their space and their own window to take in the world. Under the hood, this wagon could hide a powerful V8, either a 400 or even a 460 cubic inch. Its power was such that, despite its considerable weight, the Country Squire moved with poise and serenity. It wasn't built to race, but to cross entire states with a level of comfort few cars could match. One fascinating detail is that this 1970 version was among the first to include a 3-point seatbelt system for the rear rows, a gesture toward family safety that would set a trend in the years to come. This reinforced the idea that the vehicle didn't just transport people, it took care of them. 1973, Plymouth Fury Sport Suburban. In an era when automotive design was starting to soften, becoming squarer and more utilitarian, this car arrived with a different proposal to keep alive the muscular, aggressive, and powerful essence that had won so many hearts in the 1960s. This wagon wasn't an elegant lady. It was an athlete dressed in family clothes, a beast with the soul of a muscle car, one that didn't hide its intentions to take your family wherever you wanted, but with style, presence, and a roar under the hood. At first glance, what stood out most was its low, elongated stance. The body lines weren't subtle or timid. They were sharp, tense, like muscles ready to spring into action. The front end was imposing and solid, with dual headlights set into a grille that felt less like a decorative element and more like a declaration of power. The rear followed the same visual language, wide, robust, with a cargo gate so large you could practically roll a bicycle inside without effort. Everything about this wagon screamed character. But its beauty wasn't just skin deep. The Sport Suburban offered an explosive combination of space, utility, and performance. Though designed as a family wagon, its mechanical configurations told a different story. Under the hood, buyers could choose between V8 engines of 360, 400, and even 440 cubic inches. Yes, 440. The very same displacement that powered some of the brand's most legendary muscle cars. With such an engine, this wagon could move its considerable mass with an agility that left more than a few sports cars embarrassed at stoplights. Here's a curious and little-known detail. In 1973, Plymouth introduced a retuned suspension system in this wagon that made it noticeably more stable in corners than many of its segment rivals. It wasn't just powerful in a straight line. It knew how to handle itself when the road turned challenging. 1971, Chevrolet Vega comeback. Sometimes, the most unexpected things are what leave the strongest mark on memory. And the Vega comeback is exactly that. A charming surprise in the universe of American wagons. In a decade dominated by massive cars with oversized engines and endless bodywork, the Vega arrived with a different proposal. More compact, yes, but also bolder, lighter, and with a style that blended the best of European design with American practicality. a fusion so unique that even today it still sparks curious looks and nostalgic smiles wherever it appears. The Cambac was the wagon version of the Chevrolet Vega, and its name came from the come-tail rear design, an aerodynamic technique inspired by German studies that aimed to reduce drag without compromising interior space. The result was a modern silhouette with a cut-off rear end that not only optimized performance, but also gave it a sporty and sophisticated touch. Its smooth lines, compact proportions, and simple details made it visually approachable yet full of personality. In many ways, it was a car ahead of its time. The front of the Vega Cambac was clean, with well-integrated dual round headlights, a thin and elegant grille, and a hood that sloped gently toward the bumper. Seen from the side, its wide windows, subtly sloping roof, and rear hatch stood out, inviting you to load it with backpacks, boxes, suitcases, or whatever was needed. This wasn't a flashy car. It was functional, youthful, agile, with an attitude closer to a European hatchback than a traditional American wagon. Under the hood, the Vega Cambac carried a 2.3-liter inline-4, one of GM's first mass-produced aluminum engines. While it wasn't a powerhouse, it offered good efficiency and respectable performance for its class. More importantly, it represented a real alternative for those who wanted something more economical, agile, and modern in an industry dominated by 8-cylinder giants. Here's a curious and unique detail. This model was one of the best-selling wagons in its category during its early years, outselling several imported competitors. Its success was such that the Cambac design influenced other compact models of the 1970s and even the 1980s, leaving a legacy that many still fondly recognize today. 1976 Dodge Monaco Wagon. This car wasn't for just anyone. It was for those who knew exactly what they wanted. A wagon with presence, with attitude, with that muscle car DNA still beating strong, even as automotive design was becoming more squared off, more restrained, more boring. This wagon was Dodge's way of slamming the table and saying, "We still know how to make a family car command respect." The body, with its long proportions and high belt line, reinforced that sense of toughness. But there was more than just muscle in its silhouette. There was style. The lines were fluid yet firm, the chrome details perfectly placed to highlight the figure without exaggeration, and the whole package conveyed that sense of silent power that so few family vehicles managed to achieve. It was a wagon that didn't ask for permission to be admired. Under the hood, the Monaco Wagon didn't disappoint. It could be equipped with V8 engines of 360, 400, or even 440 cubic inches, capable of moving that body with surprising ease. The thrust was real, the sound deep, and the driving experience, especially in a straight line, was everything a muscle car lover with a family could hope for. It wasn't a race car, of course, but every time you pressed the accelerator, it reminded you that power was still alive where you least expected it. One fascinating detail about this 1976 version is that, despite its size, it was one of the last models to offer drum brakes on all four wheels in some configurations. A curious reminder of how even the most imposing cars had their technical contradictions during that transitional era in automotive history. And with that, we come to the end of this journey through the most beautiful American wagons of the 1970s. Models that didn't just transport families, but also dreams, stories, and an era when design, power, and style went hand in hand. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these wagons made your heart beat faster? Which one would you take today if you had the chance? Leave it in the comments right now, because this channel is built on your voice, your passion, and your memories. Don't leave without sharing. I want to know which wagon stole your soul. And if you're craving even more excitement, I invite you now to check out our video on the fastest American wagons of the 1960s. Power, style, and speed in their most unexpected form. Click now and continue this journey with us. See you there.